He cheated on me with our maid, and the worst part is, he had no idea I was recording everything. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Corinne Halstead. I was married to Leland Mercer for 7 years. From the outside, our life looked perfect. We had a beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood outside Portland. Leland had a stable job, and I worked part-time from home. We hosted dinners, smiled in family photos, and acted like everything was fine. But slowly things changed. Leland started coming home late more often. At first, he said it was because of new responsibilities at work. I believed him. Then he began taking his phone everywhere, even to the bathroom. If I walked into the room while he was texting, he would quickly lock the screen. He stopped asking about my day. He stopped touching me the way he used to. I felt the distance growing between us, but I kept telling myself I was overthinking. 6 months ago, we hired a maid named Tamsin Rowe. She was young, polite, and said she had just moved from Arizona. I wanted to help her get on her feet. Leland offered to handle her schedule and payments, so I wouldn't have to worry about it. I thought he was being helpful. Then I noticed small things. Tamsin would avoid looking at me when I spoke to her. Leland suddenly cared a lot about being home on cleaning days. He would compliment how organized everything looked after she left. It felt strange, but I had no proof. One afternoon, I came home early because I forgot my purse. As I walked inside, I heard laughter from upstairs. It wasn't normal laughter. It was soft and playful. My heart started beating fast. I quietly walked up the stairs, but before I reached the bedroom, I heard whispering. I froze. I couldn't hear clear words, but I knew that voice. It was Leland's. And the other voice, it was Tamsin's. I didn't open the door. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I walked back downstairs, left the house, and sat in my car shaking. That night, Leland acted completely normal. He kissed my forehead and asked what I wanted for dinner. I looked at him and realized something painful. If something was happening, he thought I would never find out. That was the moment I decided I wouldn't confront him without proof. The next day, I bought a small voice recorder. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't show any signs that I was suspicious. I just waited. And when the right moment came, I pressed record. The next afternoon, I told Leland I had errands to run. I kissed him goodbye like nothing was wrong. Before I left, I placed the small voice recorder inside the top drawer of our bedroom dresser. My hands were shaking, but my face stayed calm. Leland said he was working from home that day. I drove around the block and parked a few streets away. I didn't want to be too far, but I didn't want to be seen either. I kept checking the time on my phone. Every minute felt heavy. After about an hour, I went back home quietly and picked up the recorder while Leland was in the shower. He didn't suspect anything. I waited until that night to listen. At first, there was only silence. Then I heard the bedroom door close. A few seconds later, footsteps. Then laughter. Her laughter. My chest tightened, but I kept listening. Leland's voice sounded different, softer, playful. Not the tired voice he used with me anymore. They were whispering at first. I couldn't catch every word, but then I heard him clearly say, "She has no idea." They both laughed. It felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. A few minutes later, their whispers turned into something I never thought I would hear in my own home. I stopped the recording, but then I forced myself to press play again. I needed to know everything. Then came the words that hurt the most. He called me predictable. He said I was too comfortable. He said I would never leave him because I depended on him too much. I sat there in the dark, headphones on, listening to my husband talk about me like I was nothing. I didn't cry. Not one tear. Instead, something inside me became very quiet. The next morning, I acted normal again. I made breakfast. Asked about his work. I smiled when he looked at me. Inside, I felt like a stranger in my own life. But I wasn't done. I didn't confront him because I wanted more than just a confession. I wanted protection. I wanted security. I wanted control of the situation. So I bought a small indoor camera and installed it in the hallway, saying I was worried about package theft in the neighborhood. Leland didn't question it. He barely looked at it. Over the next few weeks, I recorded everything. The times she came when I wasn't home. The way he would check the window before closing the curtains. The way they thought they were being careful. They weren't. They were comfortable. And that comfort gave me power. Every time I felt like breaking down, I reminded myself, don't react, prepare. I started writing down dates,
times,
details. I saved the recordings in a safe place he couldn't access. I watched him sit across from me at dinner, talking about future vacations, pretending we were fine. The more he lied, the calmer I became, because he still believed I would never leave. And that was his biggest mistake. The more I listened to the recordings, the more I understood something important. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't something that just happened. It was planned. It was repeated. And it was happening in my own bedroom. But I still stayed quiet. Instead of confronting him, I decided to learn everything about our finances. I logged into our joint accounts. I reviewed statements carefully. At first, nothing looked strange. Then I noticed small transfers, not large enough to raise alarm, but regular. Money moving into an account I didn't recognize. I printed everything. I checked our house documents. The mortgage was in my name because my credit had been stronger when we bought it. Leland had always joked that I was the organized one. He never thought that would matter. It did. I also reviewed his business registration. Years ago, when he started his consulting company, I helped him file the paperwork. I found copies of those documents in our filing cabinet. His company was connected to our shared assets in ways he probably forgot. That's when I decided to speak to a lawyer. Her name was Blair Huxley. Calm voice. Sharp eyes. I brought a folder with printed bank statements, property documents, and a small flash drive. She listened without interrupting while I explained everything. When I finished, she asked one question. Do you have proof of the affair? I handed her the flash drive. She watched a few minutes of the hallway footage. She listened to part of the audio recording. Her expression didn't change. When she finally spoke, her words were steady. You've been very patient. I told her I didn't want drama. I didn't want shouting or public embarrassment. I wanted protection. I wanted fairness. She explained how infidelity could affect financial settlements in our state, especially when shared money might have been used to support the affair. She also explained that moving money without my knowledge could work in my favor. For the first time since I pressed record, I felt something close to relief. Leland thought I was unaware. He thought I was dependent. He thought I wouldn't survive without him. But I was building something quietly. At home, I became even kinder. I cooked his favorite meals. I asked about his meetings. I even thanked Tamsin for her hard work one afternoon when she finished cleaning. She looked uncomfortable. Leland avoided eye contact. They thought they were getting away with it. Meanwhile, I was organizing documents, meeting Blair twice a week, and preparing divorce papers. One evening, as Leland sat next to me on the couch, scrolling through his phone, he leaned over and said, "You know I'd never hurt you, right?" I looked at him and smiled softly. "Of course," I said. And in that moment, I realized something powerful. He wasn't in control anymore. I was. After weeks of preparation, everything was ready. The recordings were saved in multiple places. The bank statements were copied. The divorce papers were drafted but not yet filed. Blair told me the timing mattered. If I wanted full impact, I had to choose the right moment. So I planned a dinner. I told Leland I wanted to host something small. Just close family. He looked surprised but agreed. I invited his parents, my sister Maribel, and most importantly, Tamsin. I told her I wanted to thank her properly for helping around the house. She hesitated before saying yes. The night of the dinner, I wore a simple navy dress. Nothing dramatic. I didn't want attention on me yet. I wanted everything to feel normal. Leland seemed nervous. He kept asking if everything was okay. I smiled every time and said, "Of course." Tamsin arrived last. She looked pale and avoided my eyes. I greeted her politely and asked her to sit. Dinner started calmly. Small talk. Work updates. His mother complimented the food. My sister watched me carefully, like she sensed something was coming. After dessert, I stood up. I have something I'd like to share, I said gently. Leland's smile faded slightly. Corinne, what is this? I walked to the living room where I had connected my phone to the speaker earlier. My hands were steady. I think honesty is important in a family, I said. Then I pressed play. At first, the room filled with soft static. Then the sound of our bedroom door closing. Then laughter. Tamsin froze. Leland stood up quickly. Turn that off, he said sharply. I raised my hand. Let it finish. The whispers grew clearer. His voice. Her voice. The words he used about me. No one spoke. His mother covered her mouth. His father stared at the floor. Maribel looked at Leland with pure anger. When the recording ended, the silence felt heavy. Leland tried to speak. This isn't what it sounds like. It sounds exactly like what it is, I replied calmly. Tamsin grabbed her purse and rushed toward the door without saying a word. No apology. No explanation. Leland looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. How long have you known? He asked. Long enough, I answered. I walked to the table and picked up an envelope. Inside were the divorce papers. I handed them to him, in front of everyone. I'm done, I said quietly. His confidence was gone. The man who once believed I would never leave now stood there speechless. His mother began crying. His father walked outside. The perfect image he cared about so much was breaking apart right in front of him. And for the first time in months, I felt light. Not because I exposed him, but because I finally chose myself. After that night, nothing in the house felt the same. Leland didn't sleep in our bedroom. He stayed in the guest room, quiet and distant. The confidence he once carried was gone. Now he moved around the house carefully, like he wasn't sure where he stood. The next morning, he tried to talk. Corinne, we can fix this, he said. It was a mistake. I looked at him calmly. A mistake happens once. You planned this. He didn't argue. Within days, he hired his own lawyer. That's when things became more serious. The polite silence turned into legal conversations. Paperwork moved back and forth. Accounts were frozen. Assets were reviewed. Blair remained steady through all of it. She explained every step clearly. Because I had proof of the affair and records of the money he quietly moved, his position was weaker than he expected. We discovered that he had been transferring small amounts into a private account for months. He thought it was hidden well. It wasn't. That money mattered. It showed intention. During mediation, Leland tried to claim the house should be sold and divided. But the mortgage and primary ownership were under my name. The documentation worked in my favor. For the first time, he looked uncertain. He asked me privately one afternoon, "Did you plan all this?" I answered honestly, "No." "You did. I just prepared." The process wasn't fast, but it was fair. I kept the house. The shared investments were divided, but he lost claim to a portion because of financial misconduct. His business records were reviewed closely, and he had to settle certain amounts he thought were secure. Tamsin never contacted me. She quit within a week of that dinner. I heard from a neighbor that she moved out of her apartment shortly after. As for Leland, he sent a few long emails at first. Apologies. Blame. Regret. He said he didn't mean to hurt me. He said he felt lost. He said I was cold for exposing him that way. I never replied, because I didn't need to argue anymore. The day the divorce was finalized, I walked through the house slowly. The same walls, the same furniture, but it felt different. It felt like mine. There were moments of sadness, of course. 7 years don't disappear overnight. But there was something stronger than sadness. Peace. He once believed I would stay no matter what. He believed I was too predictable to leave. He was wrong. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I didn't beg. I listened. I recorded. I prepared. And when the time was right, I walked away with my dignity intact. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't loud. It's quiet. And it changes everything.